Mr. Blackwell, you got the first question. Funniest player? Funniest player on the team? No, oh, you think it's yourself? Probably is. Probably is. Used to not be funny, but you are now.
Yeah. Who's the ugliest one? You don't need to answer.
Yeah, that's probably not one to answer. That'll get me in trouble. You want your phone back, John, or do you have to go off and do other things?
Sorry, yeah. Sorry.
All right, Evan, start me out.
Who's the ugliest player on the team?
Evan Flood.
Speaking of JB, he was talking about wanting to get better defensively. Kind of where have you seen him take strides, and where do you see kind of more strides he can take there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is physically he's changed. I mean, you guys have seen practice, and he's changed his body for the better. I think he's leaner, stronger, got more power to him on the offensive end in terms of when he gets downhill. And I think the experience, anytime you can, keep adding rings to your tree, so to speak, as he gets older, those things all help. So I think that's the biggest thing with him is how he's improved physically, and then taking advantage of the experience he's able to get. He played a lot as a freshman, played even more as a sophomore, and now it's his time. As I always tell the guys, you're out of halftime of your career. It's time to take a big jump, and I think he's ready to do that.
A lot of people talk about John Tonje is the biggest loss from last season, but you lost three guys that you always kind of talked about as the heartbeat of your team between Max, Kamari, and Carter. What type of challenges to replicate what those three gave you, maybe beyond the stat sheet? Is three guys that just bleed for it?
Yeah, I think that's where retention becomes so important. You want to make sure that your core, your foundation, the culture of your program gets passed on, and typically that happens through retention of guys that are there for the long haul. And you look at this year's group, and it's obviously John and Nolan, Jack Janicki, even my own son Isaac. I think that's to be able to pass those Jack Robinson, pass the hows and the whys on before the coaches have to, and then our younger guys, that next wave of freshmen that are coming in right now with Hayden and Alexis and Will and Nick or Zach. That'll be the next group that kind of carries the torch forward, so to speak. So the retention really. Oh, that's a real turnover there. You all right without the light? All right. That's the important part of that fabric of it, and each team is going to take on its own identity. I don't want to get caught up in the comparison game of last year to what this year will be, because the team is built a little differently, different people, different personalities, but the retention of the core is really important, and we're able to obviously do that with specifically Nolan, John, and Jack.
Coach, we talked to the other players a little bit about maybe opening the offense up more, maybe shooting more threes, playing a little faster. How do you balance the defensive side of that effort?
Well, defense is important. They understand that. You can't have one without the other. We were still last year third in the league defensively, I think 24th nationally. That needs to climb towards the top 10 is where we'd like to have that, and keep the offense towards the top 10. Then you've got a legit shot to play, deep into March. You're a Final Four on paper. That's analytically what a Final Four team looks like. So that's the ultimate goal, is to build a team and a grown team to get to that. But those things defensively, that's where I think the experience of our portal guys coming in, I've noticed is Boyd, Carrington. They understand that because they've been around college a little bit longer than others, so they've been able to help kind of bridge that gap, so to speak, as we get better defensively. I think we're a little more mobile. We're bigger across the board. Not only you think big, you think, well, how big are our 4s and 5s? Well, we're big across the board at the other places too, on the wings and at the guard. So all those things can tie together to help make you better defensively.
Right. Even at 25th ranked defense, it was a steady progression to get there. I guess, how do you set the floor a little bit higher earlier in the year where you're not climbing the entire season to make up, I guess, defensive metrics?
Yeah, I mean, it's once you get into the game environments, it's a matter of being able to be consistent defensively, and it's going to change because you see, just the trend of college basketball. It's scoring, right? Offense is everywhere. Ours has taken a seismic jump, but I think you've seen that across the board. Offense is really focused on. So what's going to take the downfall? Teams are scoring more, so you're probably going to give up. Well, even you're scoring more. The possessions are up. They call more fouls, so teams are scoring more points, free throw line. So it's analytically, I think for us, looking at how we can really turn the screws is be better in defensive transition, and then be better at taking away threes. And I think we got better as the season went on in affecting three-point shooting. And you still have to be able to do that without fouling. Right? We don't want to put teams at the line, but transition defense and taking away the threes are really an important part of what we want to do defensively, because we've noticed when we've had the breakdowns, those are usually the two things that pop out more consistently than other things.
Greg, both John and Nolan had strong things to say about the approach of this freshman group. What has really stood out about their maturity and professionalism so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hayden and Alexis come from a situation where I've always thought, and it's come to be true, that the international experience they get at such a young age and the development they get puts them ahead of a normal 18 to 19-year-old in terms of what maybe athletes in the U.S. come through. But then you look at Zach and Will, a very mature freshman group, like physically, but also mentally. And I think they understand the big picture. They understand they're here for the right reasons, and that goes back to who you recruit as freshmen. In today's world of the transient nature of the portal, you have to really make sure we're intentional with who we bring in through the portal, but we're also really intentional on who we bring in as freshmen, because they have to understand and want to be at Wisconsin for the right reasons. And that at that age, it's not transactional. It's really still more old school development, education, the wanting to be here, wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And you still message that with the older guys that come out of the portal, but internationally, they maybe don't have quite the grasp because they don't grow up around college basketball, so they don't maybe completely grasp it. But from Zach and Will's standpoint, they grew up watching us, so there's a deeper understanding. But that group of four is, I think they're going to help us this year. In what capacity we will is yet to be seen, but those four as your youngest guys on your roster is a pretty good position to be in. Mr. Blackwell?
Last question. If you had to say, who on the team would you not let babysit your child?
Oh, man. Would I not let babysit my child? Trying to go around the room. Man, I would say probably Ricardo Greppi. Think he'd get. Did you have that guess, Nolan? You guys? Okay, so I answered the question right. Yeah.
Coach, what made you want to make a call for Brad Dixon, and what specifically does he bring to your coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, you always have a short list on your file somewhere if there is a vacancy, and that list can be: do you want an experienced coach? Do you want a young guy? Do you need a guy from a different region of the country? There's a lot of things that go into that, but it happened so fast when Kirk came to me that said he needed to go back and wanted to go back to New Zealand for family and his business opportunities. We knew we were going to have to move forward. We were 2 days from starting practice when he told me. So in terms of working that process through, him making a final decision, because I tried like heck to keep him and talk him into it, but it was unsustainable for him to be able to do that to his family consistently, and we were fortunate to have him for a couple of years, but that wasn't sustainable. And I, as a dad and a husband myself, I get that, I understand that. And he also, really his interests are in the private business world, so he wanted to chase that and be a part of that. So as we moved forward, we were able to get campus approval, knowing we had to move quickly. And Brad's someone that I have always viewed it was a matter of probably when, not if. It was just when was he going to be done playing? Did it sequence with when we had an opening on staff? Is that really what he wanted to do? But he's had his mind set on coaching for a long, long time. And, he's one that still watches our practices when he was playing overseas the last 4 years. Must be working with AJ, our video coordinator, to have the secret code to get on huddle and watch practice, because he kept up to date. He'd watch guys that were playing and text the staff about who we should look at in the portal. His mind was always, wheels were always spinning in that regard. So, he tried to catch me before I went to Europe at the end of the summer when he was going. He wanted to catch me in Madison, and we didn't connect, but he called me later and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I only want to play 3 to 5 years, and I'm in year 4. So if something happens, well, within about 10 days, something happened. So I called him again. When Kirk looked like it was definitely going to happen, he wasn't going to be coming back, and I explained hypothetically, here could be the situation. What do you think? And there was no hesitation in Brad and what he wanted to do, and then it was just a matter of everything falling into place. But I looked at it more from a standpoint. I don't look necessarily at the individual or the vacant seat. I look at what is the need of the team and what does our staff need. And I've got a lot of experience on my staff. I've got a former head coach, Lance. I've got a guy that's had a ton of experience with me and Joe. Sharif, Greg's been in the NBA and has done a really good job in the development side. What I felt really was going to help us the most was go with somebody youthful and full of energy and really bring the juice. And so that's how it happened. I think Kurt officially resigned on a Friday. I called Brad, said, "Hey, are you in? Can you do this?" He said, "Yeah, I want to play my first game on Saturday." So he played it on Saturday, retired on Sunday, packed on Monday, flew on Tuesday, was in Madison by Wednesday or Thursday. So it's as fast as transition and as smooth a transition as I've ever had. We were obviously our feet were to the fire because we went through a week of practice minus one coach, and I didn't want to do that very long if I had to. So we need boots on the ground and people there that are ready to help our guys. And so it moved quick.
Along those lines, when you watch practice and you see Brad getting after people and grabbing off, laying down people on screens, them having to finish over a 7-footer like Greg's teams, do you see this having a positive effect on just the individual skill development of your team, maybe versus them just going against the same guys every day?
Well, I think the thing that all those guys bring, and they bring it in different categories, but the common denominator, they've all sat in the player's seat. They've been in their shoes, and I think that's what's been. And they've been in their shoes at Wisconsin. I think there's an investment that's deeper than most. When you're a former player at your alma mater as a coach, there's a pride that comes with it. Brad, obviously, because he's younger, he's only 26 years old, can move up and down a little bit better than maybe Kravinoff or Steamsma or anybody else can, Sharif. But I think more than anything, it's the fact that they've lived the life that the Blackwells and the Winters and the Janickis are going through right now, and that really, our current players can really lean into them, and they can help. Our coaches can really help our players when they go through a rough time, when they go through great times, and the pride that I watch our staff have in the university and in our program. They know what makes Wisconsin successful, and they know what we have to avoid, that would lead us down the wrong path of what doesn't work at Wisconsin. So I'm fortunate to have, like I said, really good coaches that are deeply invested in our program and take a lot of pride in wearing that jersey because they wore it themselves, and that rubs off on our players. Our players feel that from our coaches, and they see it and they hear it every single day. So it's a huge benefit. I tell our players all the time, you don't know how lucky you are to have these guys in the back here that are here to help you, and they've been where you want to go. You know, a lot of those guys have played professionally in some way or shape or form, but also more importantly, they've sat in the locker room. You know, they've played at XYZ Arena. They've helped hang banners in this place. You know, learn from them, and they'll help you a lot.
Right, kind of going off that discussion a little bit, but focusing on Davison, you know, it's very early, but maybe down the line with his recent playing time, experience with the Badgers, vibrant personality, could you see him making a pretty good impact on the recruiting trail as well at some point?
Yes, he already is. He already is. I mean, he's 26 in age, but he's much more. His mind is much more experienced. His eye for the game, his personality is through the roof. And the first time I met him, he was like a freshman in high school, and he sought me out during one of our team camps. You know, he has that awesome personality that you want. I think he wasn't liked by the opposition as a player, but man, he was respected. I've had more people coming to me and just rave about how they loved watching him play, and they were coaching against him, and he was born to be a coach. I think that's his calling, and he knows it, and he's going to be a tremendous asset. Our players are already, first day, they were coming to me, the guys that hadn't known him, and it's like, man, he's awesome. I said, yeah, I told you. I mean, yeah, he's learning, he's growing. I've told him, you know, ask a lot of questions. Hey, we were all at that stage in our career at one point in time, and I had people that helped me, and it's our duty to help him. But I'd rather have a guy that's just raring to go than having somebody I have to wind up. And I don't have to touch his motor at all. Like he's ready to go 24/7.
No one talked about the schedule and how it falls into place. What that tells you about your group and that means a lot about how you guys are doing. I guess twice the amount of nationally televised games, I guess, does that mean anything? And
yeah, that we've gotten more. Yeah, I mean, our coverage is up. I was told that last night. I don't really pay attention to that all this, but they said our national coverage is up quite a bit from last year. You know, the national media I've talked to here, I think I've sensed a tremendous buzz in Madison. I think those that have been in practice and around this summer and have seen us get that because you've seen us with your own eyes, and it's starting to trickle nationally. I'm getting more and more people that are understanding, I think, and grasping what we have and what we could be.
Because the last few seasons, the outside expectations have started a little bit lower, and you've all outplayed this. I guess, does this change anything about kind of the vibe of the team, or like is it all just kind of outside?
It is. It's outside. I mean, this group. I've sensed this from the summer. They're fearless. They're bold. They're extremely confident. They know they're good. You still got to play the games. You got to play health. You got to stay healthy. I mean, all the preseason stuff and the buzz, that's great. It gets eyeballs on our sport. It draws viewers. But you still got to go play the games. You know, so that's what we're in preparation to do, and it's not changing. Any preseason, this or that won't change our approach. We know we got a gauntlet of tests coming ahead of us. We got 1 in 2 weeks here with Oklahoma, and we're not ready to play Oklahoma today, but hopefully by the 24th we're ready.
With that announcement, you also have the tip time, the 10 p.m. Central Time game at Oregon.
We do?
Yeah.
It's 10 p.m.?
8 p.m. Pacific Time, but 10 o'clock
Really?
Central Time.
Okay. I didn't. Like I told you, I wasn't lying. I don't look at networks or times until we get to go play it. And then I'm like, be complaining, why are we playing at 10 p.m.?
Well, do you have any early thoughts on some of those maybe later?
There's a lot of things in life you can control. That's one you can't. So I don't get wrapped up in things you can't control. Can't control tip times. Can't control the weather. Can't control if my wife makes me dinner or not. So I try not to lose any sleep or worry about tip times. Got to play the game because it's the same time for the other team too. And we'll be out there, so we'll travel enough in advance. I don't know if we play Oregon first or Washington first.
I think it's Oregon.
Oregon and then Washington. Okay. Well, either way, we'll be out there in advance, and hey, they're playing college basketball on a chartered plane in front of a national audience. It's first world problems. If tip times is your biggest worry in life, you got things pretty good. So we'll be okay.
Question about something you can control. Nolan talked about adding smart weight. What do you think that kind of adds to his game?
Yeah, I mean it adds a ability to be consistently dominant. And I always say over his first 2 years, you need a bigger hammer. You can't go into a sledgehammer fight with a tack hammer, and he's been able to add good weight, like you mentioned, smart weight. And he's done that, and I think that'll help not only his. I've noticed him be much more dominant and willing to initiate contact, specifically around the rim. And then I think that'll help because it's a long season. The duration of the season, the grind of the season, will help him be able to sustain that. And that's the key: is continue to add the good weight and then hold the good weight. Because sometimes the season, specifically with bigger guys, it can drain their tank. So it's important for him from a diet and a nutrition standpoint, and hydration and rest, that he understands and grasps the big picture of this, the long haul, and do the things now that can help his body. And we get to January, February, March.
Your relationship with Nico Benvin, what's it been like for you to see him around here in the Big Ten, and especially in that recruiting territory that both of you know pretty well?
Yeah, I mean, Nico's come I want to say the long, hard way, but the way very similar to how I came up through the profession. He's worked his way up. He's done really well at every place he's been. He's a coach, and I think he understands. I got a good talk with him today, and Nico hasn't changed from the first time I met him years ago. He's still the same person in spite of all of the success, and that's the people that you gravitate to in this profession. That the success doesn't change them, and I'm sure he'll do a good job at Minnesota. He did a really good job at Drake. He did a really good job at Colorado State. Did a really good job at Furman. So he's a really good basketball coach and a good person too. So we'll lock horns for 40 minutes. We play him once or twice this year. We won't like each other for that time, but it'll be good for our league.
With the new landscape, I think it's safe to say it's a lot less advantageous to recruit high school players than it was before, and the transfer portal is going to affect your bottom line in terms of wins and losses more than anything. I know there's obviously some exceptions to the rule in every cycle, but how do you kind of just want to approach high school recruiting going forward, knowing that the kid may be ready today or the next several months, but at the same time, right now, you don't even know who's going to be on your roster next year and what your needs are?
Yeah, it's a balance that we talk about as a staff almost every day, and you don't know who's gonna be back. And now with the roster limitations, we just can't throw things at the wall and see what sticks, and recruit with such a wide net and just take anybody. We have to be really intentional, and you have to make sure you have the right, the people with the right mindset that want to be here, specifically from a high school standpoint, because the hill to climb is a little harder because you have more older players typically on your roster, whether it be portal players or whether it be international. They're coming with some experience and some age to them that experience typically wins. And you want to stay as mature and as experienced and as old as you can. So affecting the bottom line too, as we look through a salary or a salary cap, how do you build your team? And it's typically from the top down. You want to make sure you got to know who your real horses are and going to be, and where your needs are, and then you kind of build from there. And I think we'll sign 2 here next month for sure. Not opposed to taking another high school player in this class, but we're really focused a lot on the 27 class, and in our state, it's a deep class. It's as deep as it's been in a while, and we won't be able to take all of them. If they would all want to come, I can't take them all because it creates an imbalance that's not If you get too young, you're going to find yourself at the bottom of the ladder looking up really fast. So it's a balance that we constantly are discussing and constantly evaluating, and it morphs and changes. You know, quite frankly, almost every day when we get our staff together and we have our, I'll call them debates. I won't call them arguments. I'll just call them a debate.
Along those lines, I mean, have you liked the new land? Obviously, it sounds like there's a lot more thinking that has to go on now, but just in terms of the effort and energy that maybe you would have put on the recruiting trail in high school, recruiting nationally, trying to constantly find the radar, hidden gems, it seems like you made a lot more focus on just Wisconsin, Minnesota, and kind of getting kids that maybe fit the culture rather than trying to recruit nationally 24/7.
Yeah, I think we've always, there's an outlier here or there, but we predominantly this is my 24th year. I mean, you can circle a 5 to 8 hour radius around Madison. We've spent 90+% of our time.
I mean, just in terms of like traveling too, and constantly going to high school games.
Yeah, I think I think what's changed in it is that, and we almost are, and I compare it to swimming in two different rivers. The river of the transfer portal and international recruiting flies at such warp speed. The current is really fast. Like, decisions are made in 24 hours or maybe 2 weeks. You might recruit an international kid 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Portal might go 24 to 48 hours that you really are intense with it. What's the common denominator between those? They typically have agents, and it becomes, they understand the business side of it. Here's what we have to offer, here's our opportunities, yes or no. And they're moving on to something else, we're moving on to something else. So it's like free agency in the professional sports world. Now the high school realm of it, I think as much as we've tried to educate student athletes and parents and families, they haven't quite come to that point of what our world is like yet. They think they know, but they don't the river doesn't flow as fast. Like, it's a little more slow played. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to still be a rather immediate decision when there's going to be a day where we're going to say in or out, right? Because we have to, because it affects, I only have 15 chairs in that locker room, and I only have budget of X, Y, or Z. And you play all those things in. So it is really like, it's composing a roster, and how do you intentionally put those pieces together, and how does one affect the other, and it's much more of a strategic thought and planning goes into it than maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, where you just throw names on the wall and, hey, who's coming, you're going to make it work, and you'll find this or find that. It's become much more specific in who we're targeting, and maybe not who, but how does the position fit, and what is our need, and those needs. Said we can't guarantee that this guy is going to be here more than a year, even if they're a freshman. So you're looking at that every single year. You used to be able to forecast out and move players through their grades and their classes, so to speak. You can't operate. That's an unrealistic view of what this is really like. It's every year. How can we put the best team together? And hopefully we'll get more stability if we get multi-year contracts. You know, we're in that world right now. But right now, we're evaluating 1 year at a time.
For the freshmen that you have, and are in your development program, how do you navigate the need to bring in experience and technically recruit over? I guess, is that a communication that you need to have?
Yeah, I mean, you look at, you're looking at how you're constantly evaluating them too. Are they ready to slide into, for lack of a better term, we have boxes. And if you're in the top box, there's 5 boxes across the board. Are you good enough to be in the top box? Are you good enough to be a starter? If you really, then there's 5 boxes below. Are you good enough to be in a backup box? Or are you in one of the last 5 boxes where, hey, it's not your time yet, but are you a program guy? Are you a culture guy? Are you a guy that really we can envision you in a year or 2 years being in a second row box, or do you have the chance to be in a first row box? So that's kind of how we look at it in terms of evaluating, and you're constantly evaluating. I like to give high school players, freshmen, we're in the process of signing them specifically to multi-year contracts, to know that, to tell them that we're committed to them. We're not going to throw them out after 1 year, right? I want to commit to your development, and the best way for us to do that is to be in the position to do multi-year contracts and commit to more than 1 year to them, knowing that being a freshman is hard. Like, as good as Garlock and Kinziger and Jones and Belauskas are, being a freshman is hard. There's a whole new world they're learning right now. And I want to make sure those people that are in that position, that are coming through high school, and that this isn't, we don't want this to be a one-stop and just a layover. If we're coming after you, we want you here, it's for the long haul. And that's the way we found that we can really put that, so to speak, in writing.
So the multi-year contracts is something that could happen as soon as these upcoming class for the freshmen coming in? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it varies from player to player. Some players aren't interested in it. I mean, some won't. There's been those discussions with upperclassmen over the years too, and sometimes just because of how the landscape is constantly shifting, that a multi-year, and we don't know. That was prior to rev share being put in place. How does this landscape all change around? What are the opportunities? So we're all walking, coaches, players, front office, whatever you want to call it. We're all kind of in uncharted water, learning and adapting as we go.
Coach, can you talk about just the depth of shooting on this team? Could this be maybe one of the better shooting teams you've had since you've been here?
It's a deep team. I mean, we got to be able to make shots, obviously, when the lights are on. I like the skill level of this group. I think that we have a lot of versatility. We're big across the board. Not just at our post position, but and it's we like multi-dimensional players. You got to be able to dribble, pass, and shoot. And I think this group, from 7-footers down to point guards, are all pretty highly skilled, and they all have their own little unique thing that they can bring to the table that they can help this team.
Thank you.